Welcome to Arts in Motion with artist Gabriela Esquivel and guest co-host Catherine Shapiro. Conéctate todos los lunes a las 12:30 p.m. Hello, everyone. We are here in our 18th episode of Arts in Motion. Arts in Motion is a program where we connect and collaborate with musicians from across the globe. And I'm here also with my co-host, Catherine Shapiro.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Kathy. And today we have this special guest from the United States. She is a multi-talented musician and jazz singer, and her name is Lisanne Lyons. Welcome, Lisanne, to the show.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you for having me. Nice seeing you again.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
So I met Lisanne at FIU. She is a vocal professor there. She's a doctor, and she runs the program of jazz vocalists. Maybe you can tell us a little bit the story about how did that started.
Gosh. Oh my. Yeah, it was several years ago now. 10 years. Can you believe that? I know.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I was over teaching at Frost School of Music and teaching jazz, music theater, contemporary. And it was going fine, but for years I know, because I've known my colleagues, of course, Mike Orta and Gary Campbell, and I've known them for years because from and they had been trying to get an approval for a jazz vocal degree, even though the instrumental was always in place. So they finally got an approval for it, and then Gary contacted me about possibly coming over and starting that. It would just be, a few students and nothing for me to, to leave my other gig for. So, and I was, I was needing a change, and I thought it was kind of time to change and create my own program. So I said, sure, I'll come over. And I think I started with 6 students. That was it. And I think only one was a performance major, and she was master's. And so I started really very, very small and just kept building and building and getting the word out that we were doing this. And it was a lot of work, a lot of work, because nothing had been done there before like this before. And then I had to get grants for PA systems and microphones and all the things that were never in place. I mean, they didn't even have speakers for the auditorium. I had to run sound. I still run sound. And then, of course, getting a rhythm section together that can read this material, it took a little while, too. So it definitely was a boots on the ground, labor of love to get this going. I had done it once before at Virginia Tech. I'd started from scratch, and I wasn't sure if I had the energy to do it again. But I just pursued, and thank God a lot of students that came were very talented, and I think that sort of feeds on itself after a while. People know it's happening, and so you don't have to pound the pavement as much, and I don't really advertise at all, and the school doesn't really advertise it much either.
So word of mouth is always the best way to get out.
You know what? It really is, and the kids are they're all from the a lot of them are from the local community, but some of them are coming from West Palm and from up north, and now they're coming from all over. And yeah, I mean, believe it or not, with social media the way it is, students really, I put a Facebook page and an Instagram page, and they really do look at that. And so I post on there. So that's kind of my advertising.
No, it's great. And Kathy, she has an award-winning project now. Yeah. And that is called the Pentatonics, right?
Yeah, the Pentatonics, which is basically kind of a hybrid of Panthers and Tonic, the musical Tonic. And I know it could be confused with Pentatonics, which is another group that's out there, but Pentatonics, I wasn't sure if it was too corny or not. I thought, I don't know. And then it caught on, kids liked it. I said, okay, because that's representative of the school and the mascot. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, so, and that gives them a sense of, other than just a an identity, it has a sense of identity. So I started that a couple years ago because now I had a lot more people coming and the levels are different. So I wanted to challenge the more advanced students. So I said, this is what I wanted in the first place, to have a small group that kind of goes out and like the ambassador for
And
the
makes
program.
itself bigger. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then have the other larger group, which is still very, very challenging and musical, and have them be in there, and then that would pick kids from there to go in the smaller group, or
Learn from
because
the
I have a lot of.
others.
Or to
Yeah,
mentor the larger ones. Sure.
but
Yeah.
now but now I have four groups. It's just huge. I mean, I have a JV one, JV two, and then I have like a trio, this girls trio that wants to do their own thing. So it's been really very satisfying to see it just blossom on its own, and it's kind of taking on legs of its own, and they inspire each other. So the work of me having to pound it in their head that this is fun, you'll get a lot out of it, is not as much anymore because I get it.
So, what's the most challenging thing about working with groups of a certain size? I mean,
Well, the challenge is that, like I say, they're coming from different backgrounds of experience in jazz. A lot of them don't have a lot of choral jazz experience because it's a very niche thing. It's a very specific thing that only very few universities, is more so now, but there's still not as common as a traditional choir, let's say.
oh,
So yeah, so they're coming from high schools that they don't have it. So if the conductor in their high school or director doesn't have any experience, they don't get it. So I'm getting kids with different levels of experience and skill sets. So my challenge is to try to find a common denominator, where doesn't completely overwhelm the new ones and doesn't bore the other ones. So it's been a challenge, but for the most part, it's all new for them. So they're pretty much on the even playing field. And the ones that, like I say, are further ahead will go into the more elite group. And so I can
right.
challenge them.
And they can always mentor the others. And
Oh
so
my
the
God, that's
group,
what's been
you know,
so cool, is that now I've been there long enough where I have alumni coming back
there
and
you
they
go.
are now mentoring the students. So I'm thinking, oh my God, it's coming full circle. And that's exactly what we do as educators, because they're out there doing the thing, and that's reciprocal. So now I get some students that are teaching high school now, and they're coming to me from their high school
Wow.
program.
Beautiful.
That's
Yeah,
perfect
it's
because
like
that'll spread the word so quick. It's just,
it's just yeah, it's been wonderful to watch it. It's been exciting. Yeah.
Kathy, other than a wonderful educator that Lisanne is, she's also an artist of her own,
Thank you.
a wonderful performer.
I
And
read a
to
lot of that.
Well,
and to introduce this,
yeah, you have
I
to
would like to
practice what you preach.
play.
Okay.
What did you say? Sorry?
No, I'm just saying, you got to practice what you preach.
Exactly.
Okay.
You first learn and then you go in and share it to the world, right? And to introduce this part of Lisanne as a wonderful performer as well, I want to share this video with all of you.
Okay.
Is and she's performing. Is it with the orchestra at the Florida Atlantic University Theater? But who is the orchestra that you're playing with?
Interesting enough, it's not a. I mean, I don't think there's too many, full-time orchestras anymore, at least in South Florida. Yeah, it's a group of musicians that Aaron Kula brought together, and he's not there at FAU anymore. But once a year in the summertime, he would gather these musicians, and they would do a show, whatever the theme was, and we would rehearse a few times, and that would be it. So it's not. It's called the klezmer uh, orchestra, and yeah, this is just a lot of players, great players from the community brought together. And that particular theme that night, I think, was Gershwin and a few other
Well,
artists. I can't remember.
fabulous. He's
Yeah.
absolutely my favorite.
I love him.
All right, so let me share a little bit of it.
Go for it.
Let the drums roll out. Let the trumpet call. While the people shout, strike up the band. Hear the cymbals ring, calling one and all. To the martial swing, strike up the band. There is work to be done, to be done. There son of a gun, take a stand. Follow my neighbor, come along, let's go. Hey leader, strike out the band. Let the drums go loud, let the trumpet call, while the people shout, strike up the band. Let the cymbals ring, calling one and all to the martial swing, strike up the band. There is songs to be sung, to be sung. There is war to be won, to be won. Hey, you son of a gun, take a stand. Follow my neighbor, come along, let's go. Hey leader, hey leader, hey leader, hey leader. Hey maestro.
Oh, right.
That's
Dang.
very
I'm
so.
in awe, seriously.
Oh, it was on purpose. Of course, the program continued, and this is a wonderful combination of Gershwin's songs. And there's the link on the YouTube that I'll share later.
Sure.
But tell us
Thanks.
a little bit more of that experience, Lisa, and performing Gershwin music.
Um, well, that particular arrangement has, I think, four tunes in there from Gershwin Library, and that was specifically arranged for me from a good friend of mine, local arranger in town named Mike Lewis, great arranger, and he's done a lot of things for me for my Pops Orchestra concerts. I started doing Pops Orchestra concerts several years back, and I've had the pleasure of doing that with major symphonies and all over, and that that was part of my own show, and it just so happened to fit that show, so I was able to bring that arrangement forward. The other two songs on that show, which you can Google because they recorded it, unbeknownst to me, which actually ended up great because I had got a good recording out of it. I didn't know they were recording it, and the other two Gershwin tunes were actually from the Ella Fitzgerald Library. They were written by arranged by Nelson Riddle, and he had arranged for Ella's Gershwin recording years, obviously years back for her songbook series, and I think took 2 years to record all the Gershwin songs that she ended up doing.
There
And
were so many.
yeah, and then what was so really interesting about it is that she never did them live. It was just recorded. She never recorded or never performed them live.
Huh.
So several years back, I got to sing those arrangements at the University of Illinois for a concert, and they were one of the first ones to get a hold of those arrangements. From I think they were donated to the University of Arizona School of Music, and so I was like one of the first ones to actually sing those
Those
live.
arrangements.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
what an
that
That's
was,
honor.
to me,
terrific.
I felt like I was like, oh my God, this is, not kind of stepping into Ella's shoes a little bit.
That is
Yeah.
terrific.
Thanks.
So, what is your favorite Gershwin song, milady?
Oh my God, you can't do that to me.
I know, it's like a kid, right? You have so many
Yeah,
kids that you love, and you just,
yeah.
yeah, I hear
So,
you.
I mean, oh my gosh, I love is here to stay. Someone will watch over me. I've got a crush on you, but not for me. I mean, the list is endless. How prolific was he? I mean, to die
Oh,
at 36 and having written all that music is quite quite phenomenal.
amazing,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I mean,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Wow.
I can't pick a favorite.
And other than performing, she also performed with the Navy, right?
No, well, close. Air Force.
With the Air Force. So
Sure.
how did you join the Air Force? How
Oh
was
boy. Okay, so I'll try to keep that story short. I was 17 when I joined, and I was singing with my high school jazz band, which was, of course, I didn't know at the time it was one of the best in the country. So
No,
I was
yeah.
lucky. Yeah, I was lucky to have a phenomenal director. So anyway, we were performing at Mobile Jazz Festival my senior year, and we were doing a jazz festival. I think, yeah, the Mobile Jazz Festival, and a commander of a Air Force base band local came up to me after he heard me rehearsing. Goes, "Have you ever thought of singing with the Air Force?" And I said, "What Air Force?
Mhm.
I don't know. They had bands." So
Yeah.
my dad's military, so he's also retired Air Force. So I knew the military life. I knew the traveling and all that. So I knew because we were always moving. So when I found out that they had these amazing bands in the Air Force, I thought, well, yeah, I'd be interested, I guess take my number, take my number. And I thought that I would never hear from them. And I did. They said, we found a band that needs a singer and you should apply. And I went, really? Yeah. And so and then I got accepted and I was in basic training and I was right after high school. The summer I was in basic training. And I think in August I was sent to a band in Colorado Springs. And that's how I started.
Yeah, a lot of the armed forces bands are they're active duty members, most of them.
Hmm. Oh
Texas
yeah,
Marine
it was
Band.
active duty.
It's active duty.
Oh
It,
yeah.
yeah, it
Mhm.
wasn't. They have reserve bands though. They do have National Guard reserve, but I was actually active duty. Hmm.
Yeah, back in Texas in the old days, we would see the Marine Corps Band at the Texas State Fair all the time, and they had
Yeah.
done it for something.
Well, it's funny because full circle now. I've had two students now that have been employed by the Air Force or a military band as
Mhm.
as their main vocalist. So it's kind of like come full circle.
There you go. That is fabulous.
Fabulous. And which countries did you get to travel with them and perform?
Hmm. Um, I was lucky in a sense that the first band, I was actually in three bands, but the first band was in Colorado Springs, and it was a joint service band. By the time I joined them, it was only down to Canadian Air Force and American Air Force. So we went to Canada a lot. So I got to see a lot of cool places in Canada, and that was cool. And of course, we went to Hawaii. I think was one of them. And
So it was
uh,
mostly local,
oh
United
yeah,
States.
yes, because they have different bands and they have their area where they can go. Unless it's a
Mhm.
special thing, they kind of cover their little
Cover
jurisdiction.
the countries and
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
parts
And
of the
there,
country.
at the time, there were bands overseas too. So like in Germany, and they probably don't exist anymore. So they would cover the European area. So we didn't go to Europe or anything like that.
Ah, you
So,
didn't have to because they were already singers
hmm,
there.
yeah,
I
They
see.
might still exist. I'm not sure. I
yeah.
can
I'm not sure
find that.
either. Should look into it. But yeah.
Yeah. Um, because that's one of the favorite areas of music of mine too, just jazz in general, the USO in particular, and different
Hmm. Yeah.
areas of band music, and because you get to play to a totally different audience sometimes.
They seem to appreciate it more because it's not in their backyard. I think I always find that European audience are a lot more receptive. You know, I mean, I
Mhm.
lived in Japan for 3 years, but
Mm.
my dad was Air Force, so he was. We were stationed in Japan when I was a little girl, so that was pretty exotic. But that was prior to my military.
Which are your favorite memories of living in Japan?
Um. Oh my gosh. Um. Well, at that time, seeing blonde hair kids was kind of rare for because they were.
Ah, see.
So I
Right.
was always every time we would go out into off the base and into the cities in Japan around the base, I was always fawned over. Like they would give me gifts and candy and
You were
dolls. And
exotic.
Yeah,
yes,
because for them, you were
they did.
exotic.
I was
Exactly.
exotic, so they always wanted to touch my hair,
Oh.
and my mom had to keep them. It was really strange. It was like almost like a celebrity. It was weird. Now I go back and no big deal. It's like no big deal. I went to Japan like 4 years ago and did a gig. Did some gigging for like a week, and it was like no biggie. Okay, we've seen this before. But as
That's
a
a
baby, yeah, it was cool. It's like, oh, stay away from my little girl.
Wow.
Oh
It was
yeah.
cute.
And then you finished that part of your life and went to the University of Miami, where
Oh
you
gosh. Yeah, yeah.
also
Oh,
won
that's
several awards and were
yeah.
featured in the Downbeat and more. What can you say about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's goodness gracious. When I'm trying to think of chronologically how to work this. Yeah, when I got out of the Air Force, I got out about 22 or maybe 23. I'm not sure. I stayed in for 6 years. So then I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't do this anymore. I had to continue
Grow.
growing as an artist and a musician. And I could have stayed in the Air Force, retired in the Air Force, and had a pension. And people might think I was silly, but I knew deep down that I needed to work on my skills.
Mm.
And
Oh,
So I got out and not knowing what I was going to do, went back to Sarasota with my parents. My dad retired from the Air Force in Sarasota. So I went back to Sarasota where I went to school, high school, and just started gigging and then started getting on cruise ships and, getting shows on cruise ships and doing that. And then I won, I hate to say it, but I won a beauty pageant, so I got some
Ah,
money for that. But,
congratulations.
but the only money, but the only way I can use the money is towards school. You couldn't unless you had a
oh,
degree, you couldn't take the cash. You had to actually use it towards because it's a Miss America education. So I had to use it.
Mm.
So I
the
said, well,
scholarship
yeah,
program.
it's a scholarship program. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go to school. I always wanted to. I applied to Berkeley. Applied, applied there. They gave me 2 scholarships, and so between all the scholarships, I didn't have to pay. So I went to Berkeley, and when I was there for one semester, it didn't seem
Wasn't for you.
organized. Hmm. I'm sorry.
It wasn't the place that you felt at home,
No,
let's say.
no, it was not organized. It was like, yeah, whatever, they didn't care. It wasn't
And you
personal.
came from the army. I mean,
Yeah,
from
Air Force. I'm like, I have
the
all
Air
these
Force.
skill sets, and they're like, this is,
Right.
and I had a boyfriend at the time, and who graduated from UM, and so I thought, well, they're never going to accept me. UM's never going to take me. And he goes, what are you kidding? So I applied to UM and got a full ride there and ended up going just to UM and getting my degree, my undergrad and my master's. And as I was finishing my master's, I got asked to sing with a Broadway tour. So I auditioned in New York and ended up leaving school early and finishing my work on the road.
Ah,
So
Yeah,
what was
so
that experience
oh
like?
my God, it was a whole nother world. You're on the road with all these music theater people, and it's a different mindset. They have a different energy, a different thing.
Mhm.
But I had friends in the show, ironically, that I knew, and it was a jazz show, so it was perfect for me. It was a perfect show for me to do, and just the traveling, living out of a
And
suitcase,
seeing new things and
seeing new
improving your
things.
skills.
Yeah, yeah, I loved
Yeah.
it. I loved it. It was
which
good, but
countries did you travel to?
oh no, that was all states too. All
Ah,
almost
also
all.
the States,
Yeah, we didn't go abroad. No.
abroad. Okay,
So
was a
about
little.
Quite an experience in itself, though, when you think about traveling to parts of your own country that you've never
never
seen.
been. Oh yeah, I think I've seen every mall in America.
Sounds like it. Every job that you have, you've
Yeah,
traveled.
I think I've seen all the major malls in America. I saw the Mall of America when it first opened, and
Oh, that's
because
in Minneapolis, right?
yes, we were there,
I've
and
been there. Yeah.
we were. It just opened up, and I got to go, and it was like, oh my God, like 4 stories high. But I also learned that it's hard. It's hard. And I see it breaking up families. I see people
Mm,
being away from their families. It's hard on relationships. You
Mhm.
yeah.
know, and I wasn't sure this is the life that I really
Wanted
wanted.
to pursue.
No, not at least if it was for my own music,
Mm,
but it wasn't for me. It was for
exactly.
you're serving the show. You're serving their
I
music.
hear you.
So
Right.
it was good. I'm glad I did it. I was ready to get off the road after 10 months of living out of a suitcase. And I said, I'm not sure if this kind of traveling with never going home is for me.
Mm.
A few weeks out, or a week here, and go out and come home. I can
A
do
week
that.
there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And now you have been performing here in Florida, mostly, right? And Lisanne has prepared a little bit of a performance for us today.
I did.
So
Oh,
I know we
okay.
welcome you to go
Oh,
ahead and sing for us what you have prepared.
Okay, so you put me on the spot. So, this. Yes, I got my whole thing. This particular tune, I'm just gonna play. I can play piano, but I don't want to. It's like because this guy's so good. A friend of mine from who teaches at Norfolk, Old Dominion University in Norfolk. I'm working on a new project, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. It's a big band project, a new one, and he's on this recording as well. But during the Zoom time during COVID, we did some performances online. So he had sent me some accompaniment things for those particular shows. So I'll do one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a hopefully we didn't check the sound, but I hopefully
it should be okay.
okay. Let me see. Wait a minute. Let me see. Get this going. Oop, there he is. Let me get it better. You heard that, right? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Picture me upon your knee, tea for two and two for tea, me for you and you for me alone. Nobody near us to see us or hear us. No friends or relations on weekend vacations. We won't have it known, dear, that we own a telephone. Day will break and I'll awake and start to bake a sugar cake for you to take, for all the girls to see. We will raise a family, a boy for you, a girl for me. Can't you see how happy we could be? Day will break and I'll awake and start to bake a sugar cake for you to take, for all the boys to see. We will raise a family, a boy for you, a girl for me. Can't you see how happy we could be?
Woo. Hey,
Wow.
that is fabulous.
Thank you. Isn't
Oh
he
So
my
great?
God.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Isn't he great?
romantic.
That's a great arrangement too.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's so good. Yeah,
it's
he's
fabulous.
yeah, I wish he lived down here.
Oh, I know. When you when you when you work together with someone, what is it about the partnership that makes it a success? Because it sounds like you guys have been successful in a lot of areas.
It's really weird. When we met years ago when I was teaching at Virginia Tech, I met him at a VMEA conference that my group is performing at, and and he came up to me and introduced himself and said, "Hey, I'm John Toomey, and I teach blah blah blah." I said, "If you ever need a piano player," I thought, "Yeah, right." And then we just decided to get together at one point to do a concert together, and he came to Virginia Tech. And we just had the same taste. We had the same people that we listened to, and the same
Mm.
aesthetic, and we just like, wow, yeah, okay,
Just
this
click,
is,
right?
What
yeah,
a
it
match.
clicked, yeah. And so ever since then, we always kept in touch, and we did a CD together. So we have a CD we put out years ago, him and a trio and a sax player. My ex-husband, but that's okay. So, so yeah, we
Yeah,
did a
oh,
trio.
right.
Yeah, we did a CD several years back, and it just, I don't know, it's harmonically, I like the way he's more modern. He listens to John Taylor and Fred Hirsch and all those real modern piano players, which I really was digging at the time. And
Mhm.
we just hit it off. Music. Oh, you know what it is too? He loves to work with singers, and there's a lot of great pianists who just don't like
Yeah,
working with
yeah.
singers
To
or
work with
collaborating.
singers, you said?
Yeah, he likes working with singers. You can tell he listens, and he tries to not step all over you and give you space and support you. And so I felt like a support, like a safety net underneath
Mm,
me, so I can try things, and he'll always be there. And that's really,
right.
it's a safe,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's a style in itself because jazz is many different things, right?
sure.
So there's some jazz styles, let's say, that are more like bebopish or more like for instrumental,
Mm-hmm.
and not too much space for the vocalist to
Nope.
participate. So
Mm,
there's definitely um, that we need to find as vocalists the perfect instrumentalist that are
mm.
aligned right to the projects.
Yes, and
That's
or
very
guitarists,
rare.
yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's very sensitive. He listened to the lyric. He considers himself. I mean, he's a phenomenal pianist, but he doesn't think of himself as somebody that's like a Fred Hirsch level. And I think he,
Oh,
I don't know why he does that, but he does, and I think he's great. So the main thing is finding there are great piano players even in Miami, but a lot of them just and rightfully so, they want to do their own thing.
it's
They
something
practice.
about taste.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, taste. We have the same taste.
Something about working together with the right person. Sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
anyway, so I miss him.
Ah, I see. Well, now we're more connected. You see, we're doing this interview through Zoom, and there's other opportunities to work together with people, which is also a blessing.
Oh yeah, I
I
mean,
did.
if anything came out of COVID, was I think in some ways we became more connected.
We're
You
more
know,
connected,
because
And
definitely.
working together and making partnerships and having great new ideas and
yeah,
all sorts of things.
and I was able to meet some of my idols or musical mentors through
Mm,
Zoom because they would put on master classes or
you
something. Say, oh, I've
see,
got a hook on that, and like we would meet. So now I have relationships with people that you wouldn't normally have because they're not going to fly down
we're
to
like
wherever.
unreachable
Yeah.
They're
before,
unreachable. Yep, yep,
unreachable, and now.
yeah. Now we're all more interconnected, and
Exactly.
I find that's very cool. That was a good thing that came out of that whole era, I think.
Definitely.
So
If
we
any,
have one more minute left in our
oh,
interview today.
okay.
Time definitely flies, and it's been a pleasure to have you here and have Kathy as well to have this wonderful conversation. But
Thank
we
you.
want to ask you, where can we know more about you? Which are your social media?
I know. I'm terrible with that. I know I'm terrible. I do have a Facebook page. I usually put my concerts that are coming up. I'll put it on Facebook and Instagram. I have Instagram, Lisanne Lyons Music. You can go on there. Yeah, so that's on there, and also Facebook. Um, I have a new project coming out, so we're in the process of mixing that, and that's very exciting. Mike Lewis did all the big band arrangements, so people like Ed Kaye are on it, and Cisco
Oh,
Demas,
that's
and
great.
yeah, it's like
So,
a really some heavy jazz players. My friend John, the pianist, came down to play. Chuck Bergeron's playing bass. So I'm really excited about the project
so
and the music.
please
Yes, I'll let you
keep
Well,
know.
us posted,
absolutely.
Yes, I'll let
and
you know.
we'll follow you and also listen to your new projects. Wonderful.
Welcome to Arts in Motion with artist Gabriela Esquivel and guest co-host Catherine Shapiro. Conéctate todos los lunes a las 12:30 p.m.
Sueños por realizar.